What is going on, guys? It's your boy Jazz coming at you with a Vayu Turbo deck profile today. I've done really well with it. I play it a little differently than the mainstream Vayu players. I've won a couple tournaments with it, and I'm very, very happy with how it's performed. I am starting to get back into the Edison competitive space, and thought I'd record a video and kind of show you guys my thoughts on the deck and how I enjoy to play it. Starting the deck off, we're going to play 3 Dark Grepher. What makes this card relevant? You can send your starters. This is your main starter of the deck. It allows you to send Sirocco and Vayu to the graveyard, which is very, very relevant in this because these two cards make your Armed Wing. By banishing themselves from the graveyard, you special summon this. It isn't treated as a synchro summon, but it allows you to push for very early damage with very, very little investment. This Vayu is one of the few decks in Edison format that primarily will play from your graveyard. But essentially what Grepher does in short, you special summon him by discarding a level 5 monster from your hand to special summon him, or you can normal summon him. Send one dark monster from your hand to the grave to send another dark monster from your deck to the grave. Next 2 cards are going to be 2 Armageddon Knights. The Armageddon Knight allows you to kind of send your missing pieces, or if you need to defend yourself for a turn while you get set up, you can send something like your Necro Gardener to the graveyard, which ends up being very relevant more often than you'd think, but saving yourself from one attack point, or one attack in general, to get your engine going in this deck can lead to a lot of OTKs. Next up is going to be the cards you primarily send with these guys, with your Greffers and your Armageddon Knights. 3 Sirocco, probably one of the best normal summons in the deck. If your opponent controls a monster and you don't, you can normal summon it. It's your level 5 to get into Blackwing Armed Wing. And on rare occasions, but it is extremely relevant, you can use his other effect, and he can boost any other Blackwing on the field up to the amount of added attack points of all other Blackwings on the field. So there will be times where your opponent is also on Blackwings, and you normal summon this card, use his effect, pump himself, and start swinging for 5,000-6,000 attack points of damage all at once. I play 1 Elf in the Raven. This allows me to go into Armor Master very early without having to commit to an earlier Vayu play, which is very relevant. Doesn't come up super, super often, but it is important, at least in the games that I've tested, to go ahead and come up enough where I was able to warrant putting it in the deck. Plus, it also opens up a really important side deck option for me, which I will get to when I get to the side deck. Then the best, the whole reason this deck exists. Vayu, the emblem of what is it? I always forget the last part. Vayu, the emblem of honor. Essentially, what this card does, you banish itself and any other Blackwing from the graveyard, and you special summon a Blackwing Synchro monster equivalent to the levels. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be this guy. It negates their effects, but it allows you to push for massive damage or open up synchro plays extremely fast. And in a format where a lot of decks are a little bit slower outside of Vayu Turbo, this allows you to really pick and choose when you push for damage, especially because this deck in general plays a lot of relevant trap cards and ways to just kind of stall the opponent. And once you get to the point where you're like, okay, I have game on board, you just start banishing Vayus from the graveyard and just pushing for big damage. The last Blackwing we play in the main deck is Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind. This is arguably the best Blackwing in the entire format. Special summon it from your hand if you control another Blackwing. It's a level 3 tuner, which is very relevant. And once per turn, you can half the attack and defense of one of your opponent's monsters on the board. This is your 1 card out to absolute 0. Stardust Dragon, Bryonic, Monarchs. It outs so many cards just by itself. If this card was at more than 1, this deck would be absolutely just insane. So I'm actually glad it's at 1, but it's kind of a cheese card. Otherwise, very good. Now some of the stuff that I've started to cut down on the deck. As the deck is starting to evolve is going to be your Hamster Raikou package. I play 1 Hamster, 2 Raikou. How this works is Hamster when it's set and flipped up. Generally, it's by battle. You can special summon a level 4 or lower beast from your deck level 3 or lower beast from your deck in face down defense position. The best target in Edison format is, of course, Raikou. Raikou, when it's flipped, you target a card on the field and destroy it, and then mill 3 cards. And of course, in this deck, because you're playing from the graveyard, milling Vayu, milling Plague Spreader, milling Sirocco, milling Necrogardna, all extremely relevant. And then just a lot of some of your one-ofs. Gores, pretty self-explanatory on this one, and you take battle damage while you have no cards on the field, or effect damage. Doesn't come up as often, but it does. You special summon this card from your hand. For battle damage, you will summon a token with the same attack points as the damage you took, which is the most relevant of the 2 effects. And it's a 2700 attack point monster that you just get to summon for free, and the token, more often than not, will just crash into whatever actually dealt the damage to you in the first place. And just a really good defensive card overall, and occasionally it'll win a matchup on its own if your opponent's not prepared to deal with it. Card Trooper, good in general, punches over a lot of the relevant just one-ofs or like 1800 attack point monsters in the meta, such as specifically Sure the Blue Flame. Mill 3 cards off the top of your deck when it's destroyed, draw a card. It's just a really good card in general. Plague Spreader, best tuner in the deck. You can stack a card from your hand to the top of your deck, special summon it from the graveyard, banish it when it leaves the field. Good thing about it in this deck is this deck can also plays Burial from a different dimension, which allows you to recycle this, put it back in the graveyard, and end up using Plague multiple times. You're one of Necrogardna, as I mentioned earlier. Banish it from the graveyard to negate an opponent's attack. Cool thing about this card is you can use it any time in the turn. So if your opponent's not paying attention, you can banish this preemptively. And a lot of times if you have something on your field that they need to punch over first, and they forget you banish this or aren't paying attention, they will go to attack, and you just say it's negated by Necrogardna because it negates their first attack of the turn after it's banished. 2 Caius the Shadow Monarch. A lot of people have cut this down to 1. I still like it at 2. Very basic. You do special summon a lot in this deck, so you can, for instance, get into an Armed Wing, sacrifice it, special summon Caius, banish Armed Wing and a Vayu to special summon Armor Master. So you can just push damage out really, really fast with Caius. Also banishes problematic cards. On Chaos Work, this is probably getting cut soon, because once I finish cutting the Raikou package out, there's just not enough lights in the deck to sustain it. It is still relevant. Raikou comes up enough to keep it in the deck, but not much longer as the light monsters in the deck are starting to fizzle out. I'm starting to lean more towards maining Cyber Dragon. It's just way more relevant, and I always bring it in games 2 and 3 anyway, so I figured I can actually play some more relevant main deck cards in general. And then just by far the best one-of card in the deck, your Dark Armed Dragon. This card will, anytime it hits the board, you're going to win the game 90% of the time. Almost always. Overall, the monster count is really good. The monster lineup. See, we don't edit videos in this household. And now let's get into the spells and traps. 1 Charge of Life Brigade, mill 3, search a Raikou. That's basically what it's there for. This is going to be getting cut as well. Super good card, love the mills, but I like being able to control what I'm milling, which is why I'm trying to start to move into a more relevant package of cards. Relevant going second and first cards, because setting Raikou is cool, but now people are starting to play like Noblemen of Cross out in the side deck. So Raikou is almost coming out 100% of the time, game 2 and 3, so almost no point in maining this card anymore. Brain Control, one of the best spells in the entire format. Just take your opponent's monster, do whatever you want with it. Synchro with it, attack with it. More or less, you can sacrifice it because you're playing Caius. It just outs a lot of problematic cards by itself because you play a lot of sack cards. Heavy Storm. Destroy all spells and traps on the field. Who doesn't like just pulling their sweepers, right? Especially in a format where back row is extremely relevant, and the only cards that negate this are going to be your Starlight Roads and Solemn Judgment. The first of which is almost never played outside of your basic Blackwing deck. Rhoda searches your starters. It's at 1 in Edison. Wish it was at 2 or 3. Allure, also at 1 in Edison format. Your whole deck is dark. Why not draw 2, banish 1? Burial from a Different Dimension. This card, if it resolves as well, you are almost guaranteed to win the game. If you are struggling and you need to get some resources back in the graveyard or defend yourself, you can also put Necroguard back in the graveyard with it. Super good card. Just pick 3 cards that are banished, return them to the grave. This is also really good against, of all things, Gigavise or other Vayu decks, because you can also send their cards. So if they're trying to like DDR, they're going to discard, target a card. You can activate Burial, send, let's say, your Vayu and a Sirocco back to the graveyard, and then whatever card they targeted with DDR, send it back to their graveyard. Now they're just essentially -2 because their DDR no longer has a target. Mystical Space Typhoon. As you can tell, I love my back row removal. This card outs really just everything, especially in a deck that loves to push for very fast damage. A lot of times in Edison format, because everybody is scared of Heavy Storm, they will set 1-of cards all the time. This card just is going to insta-out that, and you can set up some pretty nasty OTK lines through even just removing 1 back row. Now for the traps. 2D Prison. Just good generic card in general. Sakura to armor that banishes the monster instead of destroying it. Comes up quite a bit. Overall, battle traps are just good in Edison. The best trap card, arguably, in the deck, if not the second best, Deck Destruction Virus. Attributed 2,000 or higher attack monster. Look at your opponent's hand. So, as we know in Yu-Gi-Oh!, information is everything in this game. Look at their hand and field. Destroy all monsters with 1,500 or less attack points. And every time they draw, you check the card they draw. If it also has 1,500 or less attack points, all those cards are destroyed and sent to the graveyard, which in this format is overwhelming. Even if you don't hit anything with it, having that hand knowledge is very relevant. Allows you to play through whatever they're using. And it also just blows out the Frog matchup and occasionally blows out just the generic Blackwing deck. 2 Bottomless. I don't like this card anymore. It does come up occasionally. Not as good as everybody thinks it is, in my opinion. Doesn't help with Monarchs, doesn't help with Ab-Zero, doesn't help with Stardust Dragon, doesn't help with Dark Arm, doesn't help with Judgment Dragon. There's just all the cards that are summoned nowadays. Like, this is really good against Titanial and Gigaplant, and occasionally, like, Colossal Fighter. But, like, overall, the card just more often than not is very underwhelming. Now your Power 1-ofs, your Mirror Force, your Torrential, your Royal Oppression. This card is at 2. I side the second one. This card is just an I win the game because Vayu isn't a cost to banish. So this deck can reliably play under Oppression, and your opponent can't do anything about it. It's really cheesy. But hey, if your opponent wouldn't care if they were doing it to you, so I don't care if I do it to them. Last card, probably the best trap in the deck overall, Return from the Different Dimension. This deck banishes a lot. The whole deck plays from the graveyard by banishing. If this card resolves offensively, you're winning the game, no questions asked. Bring back your Vayus, bring back your Siroccos, bring back your Plague Spreaders, bring back whatever you banish with Dark Arm Dragon. Oftentimes, if I use this card and I'm worried about Gores being dropped, what I will do is I will just start synchroing off, end up going back into like an Armor Master or something, use Sirocco's effect to pump itself, and then just one punch my opponent with Sirocco because he can boost himself. We'll go into the extra deck real quick. We'll go through the Blackwings real quick because these are the most relevant cards. 2 Armed Wing. This is your level 6 that you'll go into. You'll never summon it generically. It'll always be with a Vayu. Almost never, I should say. 2 Armor Master. This is your level 7. You can summon this with Elf and the Raven. Or Armed Wing plus a Vayu. This is your 2,500 attack monster. Good for just pushing damage. This generally comes up later in the game, almost never early. Unless you're going for the side deck combo, which you can see here just off to the side. 1 Silverwind. I have only ever had this card be relevant one time. and that one time made me want to put it in here. I wasn't playing it previously. Hasn't come up since, but now it's in here because there are times where it is very relevant, especially if you aren't on 3 armed wings, which almost nobody is. 2 is generally the best. Let's go through the rest of the synchros. You've got your level 5 Cataster, just good in general. 1 Brio. Brio is not only really good in this deck, it's very good in this deck for the reason that it discards cards. You do not like having a bunch of cards in your hand in this deck. You want to get rid of your hand as soon as possible, start playing from the graveyard. This allows you to instigate that as well as push for OTKs. 1 Goyo, probably the best synchro in the format. When a 2800 on a level 6 is insane. And you can steal your opponent's monsters. Really fun to run over Gigaplant with this. Really fun to run over like your opponent's Blackwing stuff as well. Also really fun to like run over a Dupe Frog or a Substitute to start stealing your opponent's stuff. Black Rose Dragon. In this deck, obviously, go into this, blow up the board, start banishing stuff from the graveyard, push for game. Stardust, good generic. Red Dragon Archfiend. Effect is basically irrelevant. Just there because it has 3,000 attack points. It's rare. Occasionally its effect will come up, especially if you're playing against a soft dupe block. Because you can attack the dupe frog or the substitute and it'll blow up all their defense position monsters. The most relevant card in the extra deck that you make probably the most is Dark End Dragon. This card outs Stardust Dragon by itself, also outs the dupe block. Reduce its attack and its attack by 500 points. And target 1 monster on the field and send it to the graveyard. Colossal Fighter, again, really good in general. Good generic level 8. Armory Arm, I don't know why I play this card. I can make it. Hasn't been relevant yet. But because the possibility is there to make it, I play it. It's a game ender on its own. If there's been times where it's like, make an Armor Master, if I had an Armory Arm on it, can run over like a Titanial, and they'll take 3,700 points of damage. Because it boosts my Armor Master by 1,000. And then when a monster is destroyed by battle with by a card equipped with Armory Arm, your opponent takes burn damage, essentially equivalent to that monster's attack points. So it turns your monsters into Flame Wing Man. Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Machina and gadgets are very real in this format. This card just allows you to side into Cyber Dragon and out their entire board all at once. So super, super relevant, super good. Side deck, as you guys saw off to the side, 2 Eradicator. This is one of the main reasons Elfin is in the deck. This allows you to go into Armor Master, flip a card and just insta-win in certain matchups such as Gigavise or regular Blackwings. You call spells or traps. And for the next 3 turns, you get to check your opponent's hand, and whatever they draw, destroy all spells or traps, depending on which one you call. And more often than not, you flip this card, insta-win. 2 Cyber Dragons. Again, this comes in almost every time. This just beats over everything that's generically summonable in the entire format, as well as allows you to fuse into Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon with your opponent's board if they're on one of the machine decks. Mind Control goes in against Hamster Raikou decks, other Blackwing decks, because you can take their stuff and just get it out of the way. Also kind of good against frogs. Don't use it super often, but it does come up to just out their dupe block, basically, for a turn and allow you to play through their board. 3 Dust Tornadoes. Why is this in here? Specifically because the stuff you side against Vayu is almost all trap cards. Why is that? Because Consecrated Light is not super good against Vayu. It can work. For those who don't know, Consecrated Light says your opponent cannot summon dark monsters, and dark monsters on the field cannot attack. Why is that important? Because against the regular Blackwing matchup, Consecrated Light will solo that deck, where Vayu Turbo it won't, because Vayu plays cards like Card Trooper and Raikou that can just run over it. So this outs your Royal Decrees, the opposing oppressions if they do come up. Any just generically good back row. You just always want to see this going first in a game 2 or 3. 2 DD Crows, just great into the format in general. Good against other Vayu decks. Good against Blackwings, Plants, Frogs. Just probably the most relevant hand trap in the entire format. 2 Fossil Dynas. This card is just good into basically everything, specifically Gigavise nowadays. If Gigavise does not play around this card with Stardust Dragon, this card will just win the game on its own. Second Royal Oppression is in the side deck. And then 2 Dark Illusions. This card, if a monster spell or trap effect is activated that allows you to, is activated that targets a dark monster on your field, you can negate it and destroy it. Occasionally relevant is very relevant in the generic Blackwing deck itself because Icarus attack exists, and so does Sirocco. And then you have cards specifically against stuff like Gladiator Beast, or they will summon Murmillo, attempt to kill your monster, and you can use this and just out it immediately. And then just so you guys have a quick rundown of how the deck actually functions if you're not familiar with the Edison format in general and what these decks can kind of do. So as your 1-card starter, you want to, or I guess not 1 card since these are all combo decks, you go Dark Grepher effect. You will want to pitch something like a Vayu to the graveyard to send Sirocco to the graveyard. Then you will then banish these to summon your Armed Wing. That is the whole premise of the deck. That is how you push damage, because that's 4,000 damage with a 2-card investment. Obviously, if you open up really, really crazy with like multiple Siroccos, or you already have like a Vayu set up in the graveyard, you can make some really, really nasty plays where you will pitch a Sirocco, summon Grepher. Let's say you already have a Vayu in the grave. You'll pitch Sirocco, summon Grepher, use its effect, pitch another Sirocco from your hand, pitch another card. A lot of times it's either Plague Spreader or Vayu. Banish all those, special summon 2 Armed Wings. Then you still have your normal summon on the board. Or alternatively, you can normal summon Plague Spreader. Use Plague Spreader, synchro these into like an 8. We'll say, just for the sake of argument, we'll say we go into Dark End Dragon to out a board, and then you can use something like Burial from the different dimension or Return to summon these things back. Ends up being able to push for a lot of damage very quickly with very little investment. But in this deck, if you see the line to go for game, you just kind of need to do it. But other than that, love the deck. Like and comment. Again, I don't know if I'll be making these consistently, but if as I'm getting my YouTube channel back off the ground, if you guys like to see this kind of stuff, great. I'm also starting to play Pokemon, but I will be always in Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! And I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much. Jazz out.